Okay, it's time to talk about something kind of crazy that I found out about very recently. The Thot Audit or the Thought or the Thought Tax. Basically, it's a bunch of really reprehensible MGTOW incel types reporting sex workers online for tax fraud. And then in some of the cases, the sex workers are actually defrauding the government and they're getting audited and they're getting in trouble and they're getting fined or arrested, whatever. So that's the TLDR of what's happening. Here's the deeper problem. A lot of people know that prostitution is illegal. A lot of people know that tax fraud is illegal. Even more people than that know those things don't know that what they're doing are those things. So I use Tinder a lot. It helps me a lot because I have social anxiety and I like to be able to meet somebody after I vetted them in like a self well lit public environment because that keeps me safe because I'm the victim of abuse and all that stuff. But recently I've noticed on Tinder people are asking for money or drugs in exchange for sex, which is illegal. It's prostitution, but they don't see it that way. So what you have here is you have two bad groups of people. You have the 4chan incel people, and then you have these people that are like, ooh, tee I'm gonna defraud the government. No one's gonna know. Hoo hoo hoo. And whether they're doing it deliberately or not, uh, it's exposed this deeper problem. And I think that, in my opinion, sex work is just as legitimate as any other type of work. I think that whether you're an astronaut or you're flipping burgers or you're a garbage collector or you're some kind of like R&D specialist at the government, it's still an occupation. It's varied in its scope, in its difficulty, and in its requirements of you as a person, but it's a job. And jobs are taxed. That's just how it is. I mean, I'm not going to make a statement about the nature of tax and taxes stuff. That's a whole different argument. But in the here and now, in the real world, that's how it works. So the only way to really fix this, in my opinion, here's my hot take, is sex work is real work. Real work is real taxes. Just because a group of bad people are doing something that results in another group of bad people getting in trouble doesn't mean that the other bad people getting in trouble weren't doing bad things. So if you see someone on Tinder and they have a Venmo or a PayPal or some kind of Cash App in their profile, don't right swipe them. Don't super like them. I know the temptation to talk to them and say shame on you is huge. Just don't do it. You report them and maybe take a screenshot of it and then you swipe left. And if you see someone online who you think is defrauding the government and you want to report them to the IRS, okay, that's your prerogative. But if the reasons you're doing it are because you're trying to like get those girls where it hurts, right? Get back at all those mean girls that didn't have sex with you, like, that's not great, dude. Like, if that's your modus operandi there, if that's your reason for doing this, then yikes, 1-800 yikes, call now. Um, but yeah, it's a real problem, and I'm noticing that Patreon and Tumblr are now cutting back on the adult content, and their Tumblr's banning porn, which is crazy to me. That sounds insane. Now all that fucking weird shit that would hide deep in Tumblr is going to be forced up to the surface, and they're going to have to. It's like it's crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that the reasons it's happening are valid. And even though people don't like the consequences of the things happening, that doesn't change the level of validity of the reason why the things are happening in the first place. And I feel bad because a lot of these young people, especially on Tinder, who are doing this, don't necessarily realize the gravity of their actions. And they actually think that this is like a funny, okay, somewhat socially weird outlier, but yet acceptable practice, and it really isn't. I am very much against human trafficking. I'm against sex trafficking. I'm against abuse, and I'm against any kind of behavioral norm that feeds into these things and puts people at risk for these things. And that's why yeah, I'm going to catch flack for supporting the Thot Audit movement, but I'm supporting the procedure. I'm not supporting the people or their beliefs behind it. I'm an individual, okay? And I think that reporting people to the IRS because they're defrauding the government is not a bad thing. The bad thing is the malice with which you do it, and the bad thing is the defrauding of the government that the person you're reporting is participating in. But I think that I'm probably going to do another video about this in the near future because things are changing. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of drama. There's some real Thanos shit happening right now, and it's a weird world we live in. It's weird, huh? Sometimes I don't think that there are answers to a lot of these things. I just try to suss it out logically. I try to look at something from outside of it, and sometimes it just seems so weird. Like, man, back when I first started using Tinder, the idea of asking for money or drugs was like maybe you saw one person do that out of like 100 people, and now it's every third profile I come across. It's crazy. Like, what happened? When did people think that this was okay?